Hey guys, this is Ken from Nippon Bros. How's it going? Hope you guys are having a good evening. It's about, I would say 10:15, 10:30 right now. And I can't really tell the time because I'm using my phone to record this for you guys. Um, Having said that, we are here at Cape Zampa doing astrophotography. So this is the long exposure photography part 2, and we're gonna get right into it. Intro. Welcome back, guys. So basically what we're going to be doing today is long exposure photography. So this is going to be astrophotography for this part, and the other part is going to be actually how to do light streak photography. So that's going to be another fun part. A lot of you can do it with flashlights, your phone, anything, fireworks, sparklers, pretty much anything that you can control the light with, you can do the light art with long exposure photography. But today we're doing some long exposure for astrophotography. The sky is, well, I can't really tell because the light's pretty blinding right now, but it is clear skies today and the stars are out, so I hope we can get a pretty good picture of the Milky Way. How you find the Milky Way, there's different ways of going about it. You could do it on the internet. You can download, I believe, an app that I use right now is called Night Sky. It's free, and it's basically a virtual augmentation of the actual night sky, and you can see where the Milky Way is, and depending on how you move your phone, it faces the direction as you would see it at nighttime. So I think that's pretty cool about the app. So I'll link it in the description below for that app. So basically now we're going to go into the settings of the camera, so you're in that mode. So as far as the camera settings, what we're going to be doing is focusing on the ISO, and we're going to do shutter speed, and we are going to, I guess aperture you can kind of play around with if you really wanted to, but not necessary to do. What I tend to do with my aperture setting is I actually set my aperture all the way to whatever the widest aperture is for me. And for my Sigma 60mm, it is 1.4. The reason why I use aperture 1.4 to the widest possible is because I want to let as much of the light in as possible. So that's why I am opening the aperture up to 1.4. The next one is ISO. ISO, now there's kind of a range of ISO you can use for this. You can use low as 100, and I've seen people use 2000, 3000. So it really depends on, one, your camera capability, and the other is if your camera is able to take those high ISOs without having to get all noisy in the footage. So that is another thing that you guys got to watch out for. So I tend to keep mine maybe not even going up to 200 ISO. So I would just keep it at a minimal. Now for your shutter speed, this is where it kind of varies with shutter speed. You can kind of play around with it, but if you want to get the night sky pretty bright and to be able to do it in post and get that exposure right, what you want to be able to do is put that shutter speed to the maximum of, or near maximum I should say, of where the limitations are before you start getting the light trails. So how you measure that is, what you do is you just go onto your calculator and you're going to type in your focal length of your lens. Today I'm using a 16mm, so 16mm is what I'm putting into my calculator here. And then after that, you're going to be dividing that by 500. Now this is the 500 rule, and what you're going to do is you're going to take that number and put that divided by the focal length, and you're going to get the maximum amount of seconds that you're able to let your camera before you start getting your light trails. So that is one thing to watch out for. And last but not least, make sure you're using a tripod. If you don't use a tripod, this shot is almost impossible because of the amount of time that you're going to open the shutter. It's impossible for any human being to keep it that stable in one position without getting any blurring. So having a tripod is number one key, I would say, for almost any type of long exposure photography. You do need a tripod. Okay, without further ado, I am going to take some photos of the night sky. I am going to turn these lights off that I have on me right now. One, because there's a lot of bugs just flying around me. They're getting attracted to it. And two, it's going to cause some light pollution in my image facing this way. So I'm going to actually shut these off, and you'll see some photos in a second here. Oh, I almost forgot, guys. One more tip that you guys need is to put everything on manual. So have manual white balance. You can set your white balance to anything because in post you can fix that. So I would, if you want, you can start off with incandescent. A lot of people start off with incandescent just because they like that a little bit of blue hue. But otherwise, you can set it to any white balance. Just set it onto manual. Set it onto manual focus as well. And what you're going to be doing with the focus is you're going to try to find a star in the general direction that you're going for, and you're going to focus on that one star. And then, so you're going to dial that in, and then that just basically has it so the rest of the sky is in focus. Otherwise, you are going to get a blurred image, and it's going to really be hard to fix that in post. So I would say to pick the brightest star, no matter what direction. Pick the brightest star you can find a North Star, find Saturn or any other star that is very bright and close to you, depending on where the constellations are, and get that in focus so you can take that shot. So now I'm going to try to get focus on a star, pull focus on it, and face it in the direction of the Milky Way and take this photo for you guys. But having said that, I'm gonna just turn off some lights. This one. Face this one downwards so it's not pointing directly at me, but yet you guys can somehow still see me a little bit. All right, where is the brightest star here? Oh, put that there, manual focus, and I think that's pretty good. So I pull focus that way, and I'm going to face this way because the Milky Way is coming above me here. And I got this on 30 seconds with ISO 100, and we'll see how that turns out. And I'll play around with the ISO depending on how it goes. I got bugs biting me all over me, so I am getting blood sucked for this shot. One more thing I forgot to tell you, I keep forgetting to tell you guys, is always to set a timer. That way you can avoid the blur. So, like I said in my last video. Right now I'm taking a 30-second exposure, so let's see how that turns out. I don't think I realized that I actually did not bring an external battery source, so if my phone dies in the middle of filming, then, well, I think I'm a little screwed. But yeah, we'll cross our fingers that doesn't happen. All right. Oh, that's not bad. Little dark. Another thing that you guys can actually play around with is using ND filters. I tend to use an ND filter most of the time just because I can get that. And this guy, I don't know if he stole the helicopter and started playing around with it, but he's just going around and around in circles. So let's see how this one turns out here. Another 30-second exposure at ISO 100. I'm gonna start to raise the ISO up a bit. So I'm gonna try to get different shots of the same shot. And then sometimes in Lightroom, you can actually start stacking HDR photos and get a pretty good result. So basically, when you see these types of astrophotography being done, don't always think that that is exactly how it comes out of camera, because most of the time it's not. And the only way you're able to get that is you throw it into post and you boost the clarity, you boost the dehaze, and then you kind of go in with a paintbrush and you darken some of the areas in the Milky Way, and then you get this really, really nice Milky Way dust effect. So that is a little bit of a misconception that people have, and they take a look at astrophotography and they're like, wow, like what are the camera settings and how do you do that? And then they go try and they get super disappointed because they don't produce the same results, and they think it's the equipment's fault because these guys are using super expensive equipment and whatnot. And so they kind of get thrown in the wrong direction, I think. And then they end up spending all this money and regret because they only take that photo and learn to realize that the fact that they just fixed it in post and they could have done it with their old camera. So having said that, always, always, always know that these photos are fixed in post in Lightroom. That literally freaked me out. I think I felt like something was going to come out of the bushes there. The bushes kind of like moved. Yeah, anyways. That gave me a heart attack. Let's check out the photo. So yeah, that came out pretty nice too. Okay, sounds good. I don't know if that is the actual Milky Way there, but I think that looks pretty good. Hey guys, so basically I just flipped this camera around, and now you kind of see this mound behind me. So that's gonna be like my foreground. That's gonna take up at least maybe an eighth or a third of, well, maybe not even a third, just a quarter of my photo when I take vertical. And I like to sometimes take vertical because I wanted to post on Instagram. So most of my photos are in vertical mode, and then I'll take a couple of horizontal just to maybe put a new background on my laptop or anything like that, or any of my friends that want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few vertical with this in the foreground, and the Milky Way seems to come, I would say, like right here. Yeah, just a little diagonal. So we'll see what I can do there. All right, I think I'm good. Now I'm just going to point this light away, so it's not gonna disturb my shot. Again, another 30-second exposure at ISO 100. ISO 100 seems to be doing the trick here. Shadow might actually, there we go. Sorry guys, it's a little dark. I think this might work. We have some light pollution from the kind of inner city over there, so it's gonna make that bottom part of my photo very, very bright at 30 seconds maybe. So we'll see how that turns out. Astrophotography is literally just trial and error and your personal taste and how your camera can handle things. So if you guys are wondering if there is a by the book way, not really, just the general rules of 500 and keeping low ISO for, because you are taking nighttime photography, so low ISO equals less noise, but you can increase that noise, maybe fix a little bit in post. But if you want to set everything in the camera and get it all done, then that's also an option as well. See there, perfect. I love that. I think I took too much of the foreground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just point this up a bit more. And again, another 30 seconds. Basically, this is how you kind of do astrophotography in a sense. Sorry guys, again, you can't really see me, but I am still here. Photo, oh nice. Oh, that turned out pretty well. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right guys, that was pretty much it for astrophotography and how I take them and general settings and general rules. Of course, it depends on your camera and your kind of style of photography. You can use an ND filter, you don't have to as well, but I would highly recommend you do, even if it's a variable ND. I'm using a polarizer to 5-stop, and that gives me enough playroom just in case I want to take those longer shots and I can't really do too much because of the fact that my shutter is way open, and for 30 seconds, it's a very long time for light to come in. So if you don't have an ND filter, that can just overexpose your shot and not get the Milky Way, which is the whole point of this astrophotography. Having said that, we are going to move on to light trails. I'm going to be in the same location and I'm going to do some light trails. So let me just set this up again in the other direction, and then I'll show you some light trails and see how it works. Hey guys, so basically what we're going to be doing now is using a light. I'm going to use an Aperture MC light, and hopefully it has enough battery. Yeah, should. And this is pretty bright. So I'm going to be using this and making light trails. So I'm going to give you a couple tips on how to do light trail photography, and you can do it by yourself because you can set this on a self timer for 10 seconds, and you can also put it to 30-second exposure, and it will take pretty good light photography. So what to do first? Now, first, camera settings, however long you want on the shutter speed. So whether it's 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, really depends on how much time you want to be able to draw whatever you want to draw. Now, having said this, the longer you expose your photo, let's say like past 30 seconds, and you have a shutter remote button that you can hold that shutter open. The longer you put it, the light becomes super bright. So if you, let's say you do a light exposure photography of 5 minutes. 5 minutes, you can basically flash this light like this, and it will brighten up that whole entire area like you were lighting it with a bunch of other lights. So that is kind of the effect that happens when you put it for very long. Of course, you're not going to be running around with a light or designing something in the air for 5 minutes unless you are doing some type of artwork. But again, 30 seconds is very long, I think. Even 10 seconds is good enough. So I am actually just going to do, let's say, I'll do 30 seconds because I'm by myself and I don't really know what I'm going to draw. I think I'm just going to draw some scribbles in the air, so at least you guys can get the gist of how it works. But again, set ISO to the lowest, so I am going to set mine at 100 and f1.4 again. and 30 seconds. And I don't really have too much room to play with in front of me, but I will try to draw something for you guys. Why don't I just do the Nippon Bro and put the NB. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we'll see. Because sometimes you don't really know what you're drawing until the end result inside the camera, so it's kind of hard to determine that you're actually drawing what you're drawing. So anyways, I'm going to point this light down. Actually, I'm gonna turn it off because it's gonna ruin the entire exposure of the shot. So I'm gonna turn the light off. You're gonna basically just see me with a floating light, and yeah, I'll be right back with this. Hopefully my camera has enough battery. All right, so set manual focus on to wherever foreground that you're gonna be at, and yeah, just walk into position. I got 10 seconds to walk to where I want to walk to, or maybe not that far. Turn the light off. Turn the light on, and make sure you face it towards the camera so you don't show yourself in the image. Take your time. Turn it off and begin the other letter. And then turn it off and wait for the camera to finish the photo. And you can walk around in the shot. You can come back behind the camera if you can find your way, but just don't turn on any lights from this point on until the shutter finishes. There goes the click. And we can turn the light back on to see. And let's see what we got here. Yeah, that is really, really bright. It worked, but now it's very, very bright. Sorry, I'm kind of moving around the light because there's a bug just like flying at me. Yeah, it ended up being pretty bright and glowy. I don't know why it's so glowy. No, there's no steam. Okay. I think it's because it's a little too bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring this ND filter down, and you're going to try to make it as dark as possible, almost so you can't really see what you're shooting. And then because it is a long exposure of 30 seconds, again, I'm going to try this again one more time before the camera starts. Turn the light off, and then on. Draw your first letter, turn it off, turn it back on for the second letter, and then turn it off so you don't leave any other streaks. And you're just gonna casually walk back to the camera and back. Let's see. Perfect. We got it. The end's a little skinny, but kind of get the idea. So that's pretty much how you draw in the air, and you can draw multiple different things. Just be careful when you are doing this to always face the light towards the camera. Otherwise, if you get any light leaks, like if you were to come over here and you see kind of my legs here. Now, if you can see your legs, the camera's going to pick that up as well, no matter if you're moving. So having said that, always try to face this so the shadow, you're within the shadow. And then if you expose it, you're going to expose on the camera. So try to keep yourself within the shadow of the light. Let's do a spinning one. I'm not sure how this is going to work, but we'll see. Almost like I'm just going to spin with the light, but I'm just going to make sure I'm not in the shot here. Shutter on. I'm going to start low. Up, 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 up. And then back down, make sure I'm in the shadow. Yeah, just as I thought. Because the light faced away from me and just kind of like away from the camera like this, I couldn't get the parts behind me, I guess. So it just looks like slashes in the air. It still looks pretty cool. But you get the idea of how to do it. Hey guys, so thank you for joining me tonight. It is getting a little late and I'm getting bit all over the place with mosquitoes and other bugs flying into my mouth. Not really tasty at all. But yeah, that's pretty much it for astrophotography and light-tro-photography for the nighttime edition of long exposure. And I'm getting like blind spots in my eyes right now because I cannot see where the camera is at all. And I don't even know if I'm actually looking at you guys this whole time, to be honest with you. But I hope you guys liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already, if you're new here, and smash the like button, turn on those notifications for future videos. And hopefully these tips kind of helped you out. Hope you enjoyed just hanging out with me. And maybe I should have done like a live session. So comment down below if I should do a live session with you guys next time when I'm out and about. And yeah, we'll sign off here. Till next week, guys. Peace out and create. Start creating. Never stop. Be inspired. Peace out. Bye.